Hello again, everyone. I remember when Kim Jong Il died. It was a pretty sad affair. I remember watching it on the news, and people were pretty broken up about it. In memory of that, in memory of his passing, I do this little video and offer a few thoughts of my own. And as an American, what I'm going to say might surprise you. I want to say a few good things about the guy. Like I say, his funeral was a pretty sad affair, sad event. But before we get into that, let's look at the funeral of another world leader. Kind of fascinates me. Fidel Castro, who died last year. And when he died, they cremated him. They put him in a little box. They put the box on this little funky trailer. They hooked the trailer to an old Russian Jeep. And then along the way of the funeral procession, the Jeep broke down and they had to get out and push it. And the people along the way that were looking along the way, there weren't that many people, but they didn't seem unhappy to see him go. On the contrary, they were waving flags and smiling and taking selfies. Goodbye Castro. And in North Korea, they did it differently. They did it way different. They put him on top of a limousine. They put Kim Jong Il on top of a limousine, and they carried him to the Kim Jong Il Palace of the Sun, where he laid in state for a while. And there's a couple of times a year or more, I'm not quite sure, but Kim Jong-un goes to the Kim Jong Il Palace of the Sun. He takes his wife and some friends, and they go visit. He visits his father. He bows deeply. It's a sign of respect and loving memory of his father. And he does the deep kowtow there. But returning to Kim Jong Il's funeral procession, along his way to the Palace of the Sun, the people came out to say their goodbyes, and these people were grief-stricken. I mean, they were crying, they were wailing. Some of them were throwing themselves in the snow, and they weren't smiling and waving and taking selfies. I mean, the people of North Korea, they gave Kim Jong Il a proper send-off. They just, they demonstrated how much they love the guy. And but here's something that I think everybody missed. You take another look at that limousine carrying Kim Jong Il's casket, and it's an American-made Lincoln Continental. It's the incongruity, the cognitive dissonance of a North Korean leader, Kim Jong Il, being carried to his final place of rest on the top of an American limousine. To me, that intrigued me. But the more I looked at that limousine, the more I realized it wasn't an ordinary Lincoln Continental. I started looking at it and did a little investigation. I discovered it's a Maloney. And what's a Maloney, you ask? Well, Maloney's, here's an ad. Maloney was a coach builder just right outside of Chicago. And for a long time, they since sold the company to another company, but for a long time, Maloney took automobiles, mostly limousines, and it rebuilt them. He's a coach builder, and he rebuilt them, completely rebuilt them according to specifications of heads of state and CEOs of powerful multinational corporations, people that wanted a big, secure, comfortable ride. Probably bulletproofed them, bomb-proofed them, whatever they did. As it turns out, Kim Jong-un didn't have just one Maloney. He had more. He had in the funeral procession, he had, of course, his Maloney that was carrying his casket, but then he had another one behind that was carrying his big portrait, and then one more following up the rear, which was carrying his funeral wreath. So there were three Maloneys. And I understand that, it's my understanding that Kim Jong Il had a total of 7 Lincoln Continentals. They might not have all been Maloney's, and I think one of them was a convertible. But he liked Lincoln Continentals, American cars. And so his father acknowledged that. His son acknowledged the fact that his father, the Lincoln Continental was his favorite car, and so he sent him to his final place of rest on top of his favorite car. And, that only makes sense. Also now, we take that a little further, and he liked American limousines, but Kim Jong Il also was a big lover of film. He was a film guy. He liked to make films. He liked to, he had a big film industry going on. And that's a subject for another video. He loved Elizabeth Taylor. She was his favorite actress of all. He also liked Roy Orbison. He was a big Roy Orbison fan. And of course Elvis. He loved Elvis, and Kim Jong Il loved Frank Sinatra. If you go to North Korea, any karaoke machine in North Korea is stuffed with Elvis and Frank Sinatra, and probably Roy Orbison as well. But Kim Jong Il probably had the largest film collection in the world outside the Library of Congress. It's probably maybe 30,000 films, something like that. I'm not sure, but it was a big one. And I've read that it was the largest, one of the largest in the world. And so this leads me to a really fascinating conclusion. And here's where, it really gives you something to think about. The Murong Band's first concert was on July 6th, 2012. It was kind of an interesting thing because they did it in 2 parts. The first part was traditional, they had traditional music, and the second part was something else. It was basically introducing the new modern Murong Band. And after intermission, when the curtain opened, and what was the first song they played? Well, here, take a look at it. Don't you find that interesting? It was a theme from Rocky, Gonna Fly Now, written by, I believe it was Bill Conti. And for the longest time I'm thinking, when I first saw that, here comes the girls out and they're wearing, the front four is wearing their LBDs. And I'm thinking, this is, Kim Jong-un had only been leader for 6 months, something like that, roughly. And I thought, well, this is an olive branch to the U.S. This is a peace feeler. And for the longest time I thought that. I thought, why didn't somebody follow up on this? I was wrong. Because what it was, I think what it was, is Kim Jong-un, again, paying homage to his father. Because maybe Rocky was Kim Jong-il's favorite film. Maybe Sylvester Stallone. was he liked him as an actor. But maybe it was the film, the underdog, fighting against insurmountable odds. The deck was stacked against him, but he prevailed just through his sheer guts. And that's North Korea. They prevailed against, these people have had everything thrown at them. You don't believe what these people have been through, and they've survived. And that was that whole Rocky thing. So, yeah, I think that was Kim Jong Un saying, "Okay, Dad, this is your favorite film, the theme song from your favorite film, and I'm putting that up for you." And so, there's Sly Stallone running the steps of I believe it's the Philadelphia Library in the background. And can you imagine that? Here's, Kim Jong Il going to the Palace of the Sun on top of an American limousine, and the first song after the intermission is the theme from Rocky with pictures on the projection screen, the footage on the projection screen of Rocky Balboa running the steps. And that's fantastic. I only played you a couple of minutes of the film, but to me that's interesting. And so, what does that tell us about Kim Jong Il? There was there was an opening there. There was a chance to talk to the guy. A lot went on, but there was a lot of things that were working on both sides that made, a rapprochement and a peace agreement kind of not in the cards. But that, it gives us kind of gives us a new insight into the mind of Kim Jong Il, the way he thinks. So anyway, so think about that, and it's 6 years. Sunday, which is Sunday on the 17th of December, is 6 years since he passed away. So that's in memory of Kim Jong Il, and thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.